We can hear you.
Okay, I'm having an issue. I can't hear you guys. I can see that you're talking, but I can't hear you yet. So I don't know what's happening. I'm trying to work out the issue. And I'll let you know.
We're live on YouTube right now. Chrissy, is it possible if you could listen to the YouTube stream instead?
PEP staff, should we hold while we get the court reporter sorted out?
Sure, I did just start it. Let me put it on mute for a second.
Okay.
I'm going to try to log out and log back in and see if that helps real quick.
Someone may need to talk so she can hear if someone's talking.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can, Joyce.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay, I can hear you guys now. Great.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Let's go ahead then.
I'm ready when you guys are.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. We're just waiting for the high sign from PEB Air Traffic Control.
Okay, great.
Wendy, we're all set on our end for YouTube and everything.
Okay, good to go.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. It is 9:03 a.m. and I'm going to call the July 28th, 2022 meeting of the Public Employees Benefits Program to order. With that, PEB staff, would you please call the roll?
Laura Freed,
Here.
Linda Fox,
Here.
Betsy Aiello,
Here.
Jim Barnes,
Here.
April Karin is excused today. Leslie Biddleston. Here. Jennifer McClendon.
Here.
Tom Verducci,
Here.
Janelle Woodward,
Here.
and Michelle Kelly.
Here, sorry.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. All right, agenda item 2 is public comment. Reminder that public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. People making public comment, please do our court reporter a favor and state and spell your name when you're, for the record, when you're beginning your public comment. With that, I'll turn it over to PEB staff.
Okay, one moment, Madam Chair. As a reminder, Zoom is used for public comment only. This meeting is streaming live on YouTube if you want to just listen in to the PEB board meeting. The YouTube link is located on the agenda. For those who joined for public comment, your name or last 4 digits of your phone number will be announced. You will be advised that you have been unmuted. As a reminder for those on the phone, please press *6 to unmute. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record and then proceed for the comments. Due to time considerations, each caller will be limited to 3 minutes. Okay, with the caller with the last four digits of 0891, you have permission to speak. Please unmute your phone.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Freed and fellow board members. My name for the record is Terry Laird, spelled T-E-R-R-I, last name Laird, L-A-I-R-D. I'm the Executive Director for RPEN, the Retired Public Employees of Nevada, a nonprofit, nonpartisan group formed in 1976 that now serves close to 8,000 dues-paying members, most of whom are retirees, and many who are on PEB's Medicare exchange. While we are saddened to hear that the staffing shortages still exist at PEB, we are not surprised, as we've heard similar concerns from other state agencies like DETR and DMV during recent interim Finance Committee hearings. As Executive Officer Rich mentions in her report to you today, it will take legislative action to fix this problem that's existed for years with lower wages and lesser benefits that are barely affordable on a new employee's starting salary, which can't compete with local government offices in cities and counties across the state. We've testified to this issue during recent IFC meetings and will carry that message into interviews that RPEN will be conducting next month with those state Senate and state Assembly candidates that agree to sit down and talk about our issues. Until then, we thank PEB staff for the assistance you've always offered to our members when we bring their concerns to you. And we look forward to our great working environment in the future, but we are hoping the 82nd session of the Nevada State Legislature will listen to yours and our concerns when they convene in February. We'll also continue to push for PEB to get more American Rescue Plan Act funds that remain available according to the July 26th IFC meeting, where we learned there remains a little more than $1 million left to be spent. Like other public employee advocacy groups, we would like to see PEB benefits for actives and retirees return to pre-pandemic levels, and we'll continue pushing for that into the legislative session as well. Again, we thank you for the time and for the board and the staff efforts.
Thank you. Will the caller, the last four digits of 6837, please slowly spell and state your name for the record and press *6 to unmute.
Hello, this is Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance, the independent association of faculty at Nevada's public colleges and universities. We work to empower faculty to be fully engaged in our mission to help students succeed. I would just like to echo all of the comments of Ms. Laird. The staffing shortages at PEB are causing our constituents a lot of difficulties to get through to the line, and it's really a long-term problem based on the low wages and benefits for state workers overall, and that needs to be fixed. I would just like to also ask the executive officer in her report to address issues with the transition to the new health savings account bank. Currently, there's no method to change monthly payroll deduction contributions, and it's an opt-in process to have the transfers occur, and I hope the new contract has provisions so that in a future change of vendor, that process will be smoother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Will the caller with the last four digits of 8884 please slowly state and spell your name for the record and press *6 to unmute.
Good morning. My name is Raven Sumner, R-A-V-E-N-S-U-M-N-E-R, and I'm calling as an employee from UNLV. I've been an employee for just over 18 years, and I have never been so frustrated, humiliated, and completely unnerved by the lack of service and lack of respect I have received from the PEB employees, as well as Dignity Healthcare, over an incorrectly processed claim for an ER visit I had in November. I spent hours on the phone with representatives from both companies, and every time I called, I heard different answers from both, with a lot of finger pointing. It was billed wrong, it was coded wrong, oh, your plan doesn't cover that. I was on hold for 55 minutes with the PEB employee while they were looking at my plan to see if the ER visit was actually covered. EOBs went missing from my online dashboard, and I was told more than once, oh, no, we can see it here, which means you can see it too. It's not missing. Dignity Health also complained about the multiple EOBs for the same visit that had different information, incorrect payments, and they weren't marked either updated or revised. I was being overbilled about $400 for a visit that should have been covered, and it took from February to June to get this matter resolved by actually going up the chain through a back channel. And I should not have to play the Saul Goodman card and call a guy who knows a guy, they'll call another guy that can get it fixed with one phone call. I should have received the appropriate service the multiple times I called. And as I put this matter behind me and carry on with managing my health care, I'm again dealing with the same junk, missing and multiple EOBs for the same visit, which is getting overbilled. I actually have an EOB that has a date on it for a doctor's visit I never went to on that date. This time it's with Intermountain Health, and they can't figure out why they're getting these EOBs with this different information on it, and I am exhausted. I've spoken with several colleagues, and they've had similar issues, missing in multiple EOBs and being overcharged and getting different answers when they try to call. A couple of them even told me they were going to forego seeing healthcare professionals because of this ongoing issue. And I don't want to hear the rationale that PEB is short-staffed. We all are. But I implore you, please get your house in order so I can go back to the doctor and get the health care that I need and get it managed with some dignity and competence that we're not getting ripped off for the sake of health care. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the caller with the last four digits of 9199 please slowly spell and state your name for the record, and please press *6 to unmute.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tess Opferman. That's TESSOPFERMAN. I'm here speaking on behalf of AFSCME retirees. I want to echo the concerns that Ms. Laird and Mr. Irvin stated this morning. We too have been receiving complaints about PEB wait times when calling in, and we know that this is a staffing issue. This is not new, and we hope that there is something that can be done. We look forward to working with the committee, with fellow stakeholders in the future legislative session to try to address this issue. This is something that cannot be waited on, and I know state wait times are only getting longer and longer. So I appreciate your time this morning, and we look forward to working with you in the upcoming months and through the legislative session.
Thank you. Will Larry Coffey please? Yeah, you have permission to speak. Please unmute your mic. Caller with the first name Larry, you have permission to speak. Please unmute your mic.
Are you able to hear me?
Can you say that one more time? You're a little choppy.
Are you able to hear me?
You were very faint on my end.
Any better?
I'm also having trouble hearing him as well.
Yeah, give me just, can you go to someone else and come back to me, please?
Yeah, I'll try and come back to you. If not, can you please call the 1669 number, and we'll make sure you get your public comment. Okay. If not, there is going to be another public comment session towards the end of the board meeting. Okay. Okay, one moment. Okay, the caller with the first name Carrie, please slowly state and spell your name for the record, and unmute your mic. You have permission to speak to make public comment. Caller with the first name Carrie, you have permission to speak. Please unmute your mic if you wish to make public comment. Okay. Caller with the last 4 digits, 0137. Please please slowly state and spell your name for the record. And please press *6 to unmute your phone. Caller with the last 4, 0137. Please press *6 to unmute if you want to make public comment. Larry, you have permission to speak again. Can you give that a try?
Are you able to hear me better now?
Yes, I can. Can you please slowly spell and state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Larry Coffey, Larry Coffey. And I am a member of ASME Local 4041. I am a state employee with DETR under the Bureau of Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And to be honest with you, I have not really been able to really utilize my medical because of all the extra copays and amounts that I'm having to pay out of pocket. I don't have the money a lot of times to go to the doctors or use my dental plans because of the extra high costs. The costs have gotten too much for a good portion of state employees to afford treatment and testing as requested by their physicians. Far too much of the cost has been transferred to the employees. PEB continues to increase health insurance rates while cutting services. We're paying more for less insurance coverage than a year before and the year before that. And so I really would request that PEBs really look at how their decisions really impact the lives of state employees. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the last 4, 0137. Please press *6 to unmute your phone. And please slowly spell and state your name for the record if you wish to make public comment. Caller with the first name Carrie, you have permission to speak. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record if you wish to make public comment. Okay, Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you. Reminder that we have a second public comment period at the end of the meeting to everyone who's listening and had technical difficulties. With that, we'll go to agenda item 3, PEB board disclosures for applicable board meeting agenda items. And I'll hand it off quickly to Deputy Attorney General Connell. Thank you for joining us, by the way.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This agenda item is to allow me to make a disclosure regarding conflicts of interest on behalf of the board members who are eligible for PEB benefits. Pursuant to NRS 281A.420, on behalf of the board members who are eligible for PEB benefits or whose families are eligible for PEB benefits, I offer this disclosure that they will be voting on those items that may affect the benefits available to them or their family members. The law does not require abstention from voting merely because the board member or their family member is eligible for PEB benefits. At this time, I invite any member of the board who has any additional disclosure to make it now. Thank you.
Okay, seeing nobody raise their hand, we will move on to agenda item 4, which, as you all know, is the consent agenda comprised of a variety of reports. And as is our habit, I will accept a motion to approve all the items under number 4, unless there are individual items board members would like to pull for discussion. So if you'd raise your hand, Mr. Barnes, right out the gate.
Yes, thank you. For the record, Jim Barnes, I'd like to pull item 4.2.1 and 4.4.
Okay, got it. Anyone else? Are there agenda items you'd like to discuss? Ms. Kelly?
I was not in attendance at May 26th meeting. So I would need to abstain from voting on those minutes. So I'm not sure if we want to pull them or.
All right.
Anyway, yeah.
Sounds good. Duly noted. Anyone else? Are there items you want to pull for discussion? Okay.
So this is Laura. Staff would like to pull 4.3.5, please.
4.3.5. I didn't know I could let you guys pull your own items. That seems a little weird, just for the record. Okay. All right. Hearing nobody else or seeing nobody else raise their hand, I'll accept a motion to approve all the items and reports on the consent agenda with the exception of 4.2.1, 4.3.5, and 4.4.
This is Leslie, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Linda Fox, for the record, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand in your little box.
Aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. All right, let's return to 4.2.1, which is the budget report. Mr. Barnes.
Yes, for the record, Jim Barnes. I have a question for Laura Rich regarding the budget report. Am I correct in understanding that that this is essentially a snapshot in time and that there'll be additional budget report in September, or I'm just wondering how that works.
You are correct, Mr. Barnes. Laura Rich, for the record, yes, this is a snapshot in time. And one of the things we struggled with as a board is that this budget report, because of just the way that the claims come in and the wild swings in ups and downs throughout the year, we have decided as a board to really just look at that September report when basically what that is in September, it takes into account all of the fiscal year closing. And so it's a more accurate statement once everything is said and done and closed for that year. And so looking at that September budget report is more beneficial and helps the board really, see where we are in terms of the end of the fiscal year. So we do provide this budget report quarterly, but the reality is that September report is what we determined to be that, that snapshot in time. It's at the end of the fiscal year and takes everything into account. And so it's more accurate at that point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Verducci, do you have a question on 4.2.1? Unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Tom Verducci for the record. I do have a question on the report. I was reading here that the state subsidies are projected to be less than the budgeted amount by $0.9 million. And I was just wondering what the rationale was and what would cause the projected amount to be less than budgeted.
Laura Rich for the record. So what that essentially means is that our trend is higher than what we projected. And so, or that what was in our budget, what was approved in our budget. And so rates are set based on what the projected trend is, and and it's set on a 2-year basis. And as we've discussed, trend is coming in higher. We're seeing that bounce back in claims, and so this is something that we expected really, in the plan.
This is Laura Freed. Isn't it also true that vacancy contributes to this, because state subsidies are generated, AGIS is generated on filled positions, and Reggie is generated on gross payroll? If we have fewer filled positions and we have lower gross payroll, we're going to have lower subsidies with which to buy things.
That is correct. That is also another factor, and something that we are definitely discussing with the actuaries and GFO as we build that budget moving forward. It's also something that's affecting not just PEB, but PERS as well, for the same reason.
Great, thank you very much. And just one follow-up question. On page 3 of the budget report, it appears that differential cash available has increased by $1 million for this period. Is that correct, that is still increasing?
Laura Rich, for the record, yes and no. So again, this is a snapshot in time. Those numbers fluctuate dramatically based on the claims that have come in and the claims lag. And so while this is informational, really, Mr. Verducci, that September report is going to be the more accurate number, because everything will have closed in the fiscal year. That's reflecting the fiscal year closing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If nobody else has any questions on the budget report, I'll move to 4.3.5, the Willis Towers Watson Individual Marketplace Enrollment and Performance Report.
Laura Rich, for the record. So the reason that staff have this pulled is because, as you can see, there were some missed performance guarantees in this report. And really this is due to high call volume associated with the transition of our enrollment and eligibility system. Back in March and April, and even before that, there was a really significant impact on the retirees during that transition that affected retirees specifically. And so Towers Watson, or VIA Benefits, was hit really hard with call volume that was specific to related to the enrollment and eligibility transition of PEB, and the chaos that was involved in that project. And so staff is recommending that the penalty associated with this performance guarantee be waived because of that, and the penalty is $2,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Not seeing any questions, so we'll move on to 4.4, the FY22 OPEB valuation.
Yes, Jim Barnes for the record. And I guess actually the people that I would have to address this to aren't present, because I believe it would actually be for Aon. But the question I had is, and I believe they're not here, but the question I have is that if we do add these benefits back, what is the impact? Is there some impact on the state budget, or what will be the fiscal impact of adding these benefits back? And like I say, Aon's not here, but I don't know if we can get the question to them or what.
Mr. Barnes, this is Laura Freed. Let me see if I can clarify your question. By adding these benefits back, what specifically do you mean? Do you mean pre-funding the retiree healthcare liability, or did you mean something else?
No, that's what I mean.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll let Ms. Rich take that one.
All right, Laura Rich for the record. So you are correct. Aon is no longer a contracted vendor with PEB. However, so let me just clarify that the PEB board does not have the ability to reinstate these benefits. This is something that the legislature decided a long time ago, and so those benefits have been cut off since that point. The OPEB liability, which is other post-employment benefits, really just takes into account our long-term, the program's long-term liability, and what we are on the hook for. So right now, that long-term liability is slowly reducing, because at some point we won't have any long-term liability, because the retirees will no longer be eligible for benefits, for medical benefits. And so eventually that number will become zero. To add those benefits back in, that number will not only, and I'm not an actuary, so I will, I can't give you the numbers as to, what that's going to look like. And I'm sure it takes a whole lot of analysis in projections. But those numbers would increase dramatically if we were to reinstate those. And it would be very complicated, because what about those employees that fell through the crack, or, that are in that time period where they were hired, during that time period where those benefits were not eligible. And so that liability would definitely increase. How much, I don't know. That would be something that the actuaries would have to really do an analysis on.
So are you referring to the retiree benefits for the post 2011 hires, or is that what you're referring to?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions. I think I'll look to Mr. Barnes for a motion to approve 4.2.1, 4.3.5, and 4.4.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Janelle Woodward, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And Ms. Kelly, I'll take you as an abstention.
I'm sorry, I had already said aye.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Great. Okay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, then. With that, we'll go to agenda item 5, the executive officer report, which is an informational item.
All right, Laura Rich for the record again. We're going to start out the executive officer report with the fun subject of staffing. We've heard a lot about this. Staffing at PEB and just across the state and really across the nation, period, is just a challenge. When this report was written, and it actually is still the correct number, our PEB's vacancy rate is roughly around 32-33%. That means that we have 11 vacancies of the 34 positions in our agency. The reason for this. So first, it starts with there's some delays with the Division of Human Resource Management's transition to the new HR software, which is called SuccessFactors. Similar to PEB, the state recently terminated its contract with LSI for the statewide Smart 21 ERP implementation. SuccessFactors was part of that. However, that program will be continued to be utilized, but there's problems in that system that lead to delays in the recruiting process. This is by no means a fault of the Division of Human Resource Management, DHRMs. There's, they're doing everything they can to improve that system, but they're stuck with it. So while SuccessFactors has delayed PEB's ability to conduct recruitments in a efficient manner, it's just really only one component of a bigger problem, because once that recruitment is posted and we get a list of eligible candidates, it's just challenging to fill those slots, even the interview slots. In the most recent round of interviews, only 2 candidates accepted an interview of the 12 that were invited to interview. And of those, only 1 showed up for their scheduled interview, and once offered the position, the candidate declined, citing low compensation. Similar experience occurred in a different recruitment where of 17 candidates who were offered interviews, only 2 accepted, and neither one showed up to the interview. We recently had one that we thought we were going to onboard, and the day before she was due to start, she called and said she had taken another position. So this is happening, where it's not that we're not trying to fill our positions, it is just an impossible task at this point. So although this has impacted PEB in all areas, the most noticeable impact has been in the member services unit, which is our call center. These positions are frontline positions meant to assist members by answering questions and providing information on PEB eligibility and processes. And they're crucial during open enrollment when the call volume is high and members have a limited time to make plan selections. Unfortunately, the staffing shortage created long wait times, sometimes up to an hour long. That continues today. It's still, this week, we're down to about a half hour, but we're looking at hour-long waits to get through. PEB has attempted to divert resources, but with the various competing implementations happening concurrently, as well as all the other normal duties that staff have, there were just really limited options. If you pull someone from eligibility to answer phones, then someone who made an open enrollment election, and that needs to be processed. And so in order to get that done and to the vendors in time for a July 1st, start date, so that they could get their cards and all that, you pull someone off eligibility, and then those events don't get processed quickly enough. And so really we have limited options when it comes to that. So the high call volume and long wait times continue to exist even beyond open enrollment, and will likely continue until the staffing challenges are no longer a factor. Something else that I had staff pull just recently too is the call volume itself, because although we do have a staffing shortage, I wanted to look at what the call volume was compared to years prior. And it is definitely much, much higher than normal. So to put it into perspective, last year during the May 1st to July 1st timeframe, we had about 12,000 calls come in. We had 20,000 this year. So almost double what we had, what we have on a normal given year. On top of that, we have emails that come in, that need to be answered as well. So it's not only calls, and we have people that come into the building as well for walk-ins. So it's definitely challenging. Moving forward, there are some options that have been presented by DHRM through emergency regulations that will allow PEB to retain good, knowledgeable staff by offering promotional opportunities that they previously would not have qualified for. So we're really excited about this because it allows PEB to promote from within and avoid the long learning curve associated with bringing on new staff. It also rewards good employees for their efforts and allows recognitions of those efforts. The unintended downside to this, though, is that we're usually promoting entry-level staff, and then it just creates more vacancies in those hard-to-fill positions, such as MSU. So unfortunately, this problem is largely out of the control of PEB and will have to be addressed on a legislative level during the upcoming legislative session. So I'm going to stop right there because I think that there was a lot of public comment about this, and this is an important topic as far as PEB being able to, complete its mission successfully. And, unfortunately, this is where we're at.
This is Laura Freed. I saw Ms. Biddleston raise her hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leslie Biddleston for the record. I have a question for Executive Officer Rich. I appreciate the information, and one of my first questions was the call volume, which you did answer, and so that explains some of the issues, wait times, and other things. My question to you is, what is the learning curve for new employees or employees to be able to answer the questions appropriately? I don't know how better to say that, but so what is really the learning curve for these frontline staff who are answering the phones?
Well, Rich, for the record, the learning curve is actually pretty significant. So we have about 10, well, actually it's 11 employees in the member services unit, and they are tasked with answering eligibility questions, providing information and guidance about our retiree process, things like that. So we don't specifically answer questions on, or PEB staff does not answer questions and are not able to answer questions about EOBs and specific benefit related questions usually. So those are diverted to our TPA, and our TPA has a call center. However, a lot of those calls first come into PEB just for eligibility type questions, for questions about the retiree process, for questions about how to log into your account. I'm having issues with, completing an open enrollment event. Please walk me through this, things like that. They must understand the eligibility process inside and out. There's a lot to it. We have a whole master plan document specific to eligibility. What do members need when, if they're to get married or have a baby? What if you have any kind of a qualifying life event, any type of, if you're aging into Medicare, what is the situation there? What are the options that you have? If the members provide bad information or insufficient information, it really can negatively affect the member because they miss their window of opportunity. It's health insurance, right? And you need them to have access to that health insurance. So the learning curve is pretty significant. On top of that, anytime you change vendors and change processes and things like that, now there's a whole new layer of stuff that they have to learn. And so we had a lot of that, a lot of communication that went out this time around on the network, on the TPA, on the enrollment and eligibility system. And so anytime we send out communication, that also prompts phone calls as well, asking for an explanation or clarification, or does this affect me, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot that they have to answer. And a lot of these, the staff we have there, they're doing great, but they're new. And I mean, I've been at PEB for 7 years and I'm still learning new stuff. And so PEB is very complicated. There's a lot to it. And in order to really be a subject matter expert, it takes time and exposure. And it's impossible to sit someone down for 2 weeks and give them here's your PEB 101 and put them on the phones, right? And so there's definitely a learning process associated with
that. Okay. Ms. Biddleston, if you don't have a follow-up.
I don't. That answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go to Ms. Kelly, followed by Ms. Aiello.
Thanks, Chair Freed. Michelle Kelly for the record. I guess I just have more of an entry level question, if you will. I guess I'm challenged because I understand, 11 staff down, and I know that all of us have been impacted by kind of difficulty in getting through to PEB, me included. So, and I understand the challenges there. Where I guess I'm a little concerned is that the solution is to wait until the legislative session to address these more systematic issues. And so it's my naivety. I guess I just don't understand what can we do before then, because obviously PEB can't go another 6 months or 12 months really, because we're talking about fiscal year 2024, July 1. What can we do? And it's probably a question for Chair Freed, but is there something more we can do? Is there something more creative we can be? Because, it's obviously not acceptable.
Yeah. Ms. Rich, do you want to field this, or you want me to take a shot?
Go ahead, and if you have something to add, I'm happy to as well.
I mean, I guess you and I will probably say a lot of the same things about, if we're talking about, specifically PEB benefits, the subsidies are set in session law, and we can't increase the state's contribution without legislative action. If we're talking about recruitment and retention generally, as Ms. Rich said, Frank Richardson, who's the administrator of human resource management in my department, has been conducting a comprehensive look through NAC 284, the classified personnel regs, to see, what regs can we rewrite to make the civil service recruitment process quicker and easier. But fundamentally, I think everybody in every agency agrees that it comes down to money. And we're trying to work through some of the laws passed last session, as well as some of the special session from 2020 laws, and see if there's some way we can read those laws to utilize ARP money for certain compensation effects. But everybody has been advocating that everybody in state service, not just certain classes, not just certain agencies, everybody, because we're all having the same recruitment and retention problems, needs a raise. And we are working with GFO and trying to explore possibilities about how we can get some fiscal relief in the interim. And I probably can't or shouldn't say anything more than that.
And I'll just add, for Rich, for the record, I'll just add that our entry level positions start at around $17 an hour. When you take into account PERS, PERS deduction, it's less than that. I found out that the car wash down the street starts their high school kids at $17 an hour. So that's no requirements, no education requirements, no experience requirements. They're making $17 an hour plus tip. So when we are competing with car washes and fast food, how do we compete? We just, this is why we can't fill those positions. We're doing everything we can internally, being accommodating, work from home, for some positions, anything that we can. But in some ways we've done the opposite, right? Where I had to shut down the use of leave for really, and through the middle of July, because I can't afford to not have staff around for open enrollment. And so these folks have, myself included, a ton of leave, that they have to use. And now we're at a point where there's staff that, have 2 months of leave that they need to use, and I can't afford to let them take it. So we're going to have to pay them out. So their staff are burned out. They're just burned out because everyone is doing the job of 2 or 3 people. And that's just not at PEB, that's across the state.
I saw that member Ayala had a question, but then she lowered her hand. So I don't know if you still have one.
I'm sorry, I actually got kicked out of the Zoom by my own computer system. So it might have been similar to Michelle's by the time I got in, the little bit I heard, but so this may be somewhat repetitive, but my guess would be, because we know it's not just PEB. What we heard from public comment and everything are the big things are staffing issues, costs are too high, all of that requires money at the legislative level. And then some inaccurate EOB and medical things, which might have had to do with transitioning things, I'm not sure. But at the money and the staff level, my guess is that the legislature and the governor's office is well aware of these issues would be my question, because I don't know how much PEB can do on their own.
I would assume that the governor's office has heard from not just PEB members, but people who can't get into the DMV, all kinds of complaints. And but you're right, it's something that is out of our control at this point. We're doing everything we can. I know I've had a lot of conversations with Administrator Richardson as well, to see if there's any way to get around any loopholes to get around the system, to create some kind of incentives for staff. And our hands are tied at this point.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is I would guess that the state probably is moving closer to some employee crisis mode at some point here. I don't know, because I don't know how a lot of things can be fixed without additional staff, and there is that learning curve. I mean, you can't just bring on your 11 new people and expect to function well then. So yeah, I'm sorry if anything was repetitive, and I hope I don't get kicked out again, but we've been having a little internet trouble, but I will just come back on then.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I would add is the BA.5 variant of COVID is still out there circulating. And when COVID rips through an office and you're already low on staffing, it's worse. I mean, I was having a discussion with the administrator of the State Library and Archives yesterday about how, we might need to close the library because we don't have enough staff and half of them are sick of the ones we do have. So that's the other pressure. It's still out there. I'll go to Member Verducci and then Member Woodward if I keep track of the order in which people raise their hands.
Well, thank you, Chair Freed and Tom Verducci for the record. And, in discussing public comment, I think it's very important that the, voice of the employees be heard. And, I read through those and take them very, very serious. And there's, a lot that we can do, and there's, things that we cannot do. But, let's face it, the employees are dealing with inflation. They have higher gas to get to work. And, I'm reading gaming revenues are going up, tourism's looking better. Nevada perhaps leading the nation on economic revitalization. And, I believe we put together a vote to have 2 budgets prepared to restore the benefits. And I'm also wondering how the American Rescue Plan Act funds work, if we're eligible for any of those funds that might be out there. That was my comment, but it just seems like, there is a staffing issue because the benefits have gone down. Now, we can't make the pay go up, but perhaps we could make some suggestions to improve the benefits. And I believe that comes up at our November meeting, I believe. So we'll have 2 budgets in place, and just I know the PEB staff is very busy right now, obviously, but I'm wondering how those 2 budgets are moving along, and if perhaps we can put in a request for American Rescue Plan funds if they're out there.
Laura Rich for the record. I believe, as Chair Freed said, the Department of Administration is looking into options to use ARPA money for compensation, but I don't think any information is available on that. Mr. Fiducci, also, we had last year, we had submitted requests. All agencies were asked to submit requests for ARP funding, and PEB did submit some requests and did not receive the funding to restore or to enhance benefits, I should say. We did receive some ARP money to pay for or to get reimbursed for the COVID testing, but we did not receive any funds for enhanced benefits. And as far as building the budget, yes, we are in the process of that. But remember, we were given the direction to build based on the existing plan benefit design today. So we are doing that. And we are also submitting a separate budget, which enhances the benefits to those pre-pandemic levels as well. But that will not be really made public until GovRec is released, which is in January. And so PEB submits that budget. We work with GFO in the governor's office, once that budget is submitted. But after that, it's all confidential until January when GovRec is released.
Well, thank you very much. I just think if we could restore the benefits, it might start solving some of the staffing issues and making the state of Nevada an attractive employer once again to work with. So thank you very much for your comments there.
Thank you, Mr. Verducci. Member Woodward, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Freed. Janelle Woodward for the record. Really more a comment. Speaking for the union, at least AFSCME Local 4041, members worked really hard to get the ARP funds released to the states and do that. The purpose of the funds, interestingly enough, were to restore budget shortfalls. Personally, I haven't really seen that be the case of how funds have been used to solve those budget shortfalls, but it's really disconcerting that they just kind of blew off PEB's request to get those funds to help with the healthcare costs. You can be sure that legislature is going to hear a lot about that going forward in this next session. But, we've also heard the governor wants to reimburse the furlough days, but not until the next session. So, there's a lot of ifs there. Does he get reelected? Who gets in? What happens with all the politics of things? But I agree with Mr. Verducci. We really do need to ensure that we're paying attention to how the decisions we make are affecting the employees, because it just gets worse. And Laura, I feel for you over there. I heard complaints about wait times just this week, and My response to them was that it's, you know, everybody's in that situation and you're all having to you know, wait. It doesn't matter who you call. And while it's frustrating, we have to give each other a little grace when we're looking at those wait times and the reasons for them. I do think that perhaps the one thing the board could do would be to advocate at the legislature to, you know, request them, you know, to come up with some more funding for PEB that might make things easier. We all know there was a trade-off before: lower pay, better benefits. Now we have lower pay and lower benefits. So you see people taking all these other jobs instead of wanting to work for the state, which has always been a really good thing in the past, but not so much now. So I would encourage the board maybe to put something forward, you know, as an advocacy, you know, for the PEB program. That's it.
Thank you. I want to note something here that in the PEB board policies and procedures, PEB members don't generally testify before the legislature. We delegate that authority to PEB staff once we as a board have made a decision about policy matters, taking into account the program and fiduciary responsibility we have towards all our participants. So with that, I'll go to Mr. Barnes.
Yes, thank you. For the record, Jim Barnes. First of all, I wanted to say I agree with Tom and Janelle's comments completely. And I guess my question is for Laura Rich. Have we looked into hiring contract employees or temps or anything of that sort?
That is, Laura Rich, for the record, that is an option that we could go down or leverage, but honestly, it's, again, it is, you know, this isn't specific to the state. Obviously, the state is making it, you know, because of the compensation, there's, you know, more challenges. We could contract staff through other, you know, outside providers. But remember that the learning curve associated with these positions is significant. And so we want to keep those people as much as possible. That is not going to be possible if, let's say that we are able to pay someone, you know, let's say it's $20 an hour through a contractor, which is still rather low. And then, but we want to keep them on board. We want to keep them at PEB in order to provide them an actual state service position. They'd have to accept the job for $17 an hour. And so it's just, it's a solution, but I don't know if it's a great solution. It could be a short-term solution. But again, it's, you know, it's not great.
Thank you.
I don't see any other member with a hand up. So with that, this was an info item. Oh, Member Kelly, go for it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just, so I kind of understand the discussion around temps, excuse me, but I do think that it seems like PEBP is kind of in dire straits, and at some point you kind of have to make the decision that you do need more bodies to answer the phone. So I guess that leads into kind of my next question. $17 an hour for the entry-level staff, and I understand entry level, but you've also described some kind of fairly stringent knowledge requirements and ability to take on and grasp information. So people have got to have good comprehension and stuff. Are there opportunities out there? And I know this costs us in the long run, but are there opportunities to actually upgrade those positions? Are they paid at the right place at the moment, or do they need to be upgraded a little bit? Because if, as Laura, you indicated, if we're competing with the local car wash, who also gets tips, I might add, and I tip my car washes quite generously, yeah, whatever. But that's my question.
Thank you, Member Kelly. We actually did several years ago, and I would say it was probably about 4 years ago, that we did a classification evaluation or study on our member services unit, and we did get them upgraded. They used to be a grade 25, so admin assistant 2s, and we were able to get them upgraded to an admin assistant 3. Things haven't changed that much since, from 4 years ago or even 5 years ago. And so I doubt that we would be able to upgrade them from there. There are things that we're looking into. For example, there's options to do like a 5% pay increase if you're doing additional tasks, things like that. So we're looking into those types of options because, like I said, everyone's doing, double efforts. And so even if we can do like a 5% temporary bump, that's an option. So we're looking at different things like that. But I would highly doubt that things have changed enough within PEB to convince anyone that that these may need to be an AA4. And quite honestly, I mean, going from a 25 to a 27 to a 29, it is, it's 10%, but again, now we're looking at $18 an hour, right? And so, or $19 an hour, it's still not very much. And, when I'll tell you, my 17-year-old is making, she's waitressing and making at least $20 an hour. So it's, and she's 17. So it comes down to compensation. It really does.
Just to follow up, if you can. So I understand your points about compensation. Compensation obviously is so important, as are the benefits. But I also don't want us to lose track of the fact that a lot of reasons people join civil service or the government is because there are promotional opportunities. And so, yes, we can talk about $1 or $2 an hour not being, significant. I think it is. And I think it's also about that mobility of your job, and the career path that I guess the state is looking more closely at. But I guess I just don't want to give up all hope at all, because I don't know what the governor's looking at, but I can't imagine he's looking at increases of 10%. It would be awesome if he was, but it would also be kind of unprecedented, right? So if we're talking about $17 now after the legislative session, I don't think it's going to be 27, but, to compete. But anyway, so I just don't want us to give up hope. And just a quick question. Are you, during the open enrollment period, were your people eligible for overtime, or is there an overtime freeze on as well if they're doing extra hours?
We actually, Laura, for the record, we actually did offer overtime. I'll just be honest, everyone's burned out and overwhelmed, and not a lot of people wanted that overtime. So we made it an option, but we couldn't force it, obviously. I will tell you, during open enrollment, I spent I spent many hours over the weekend answering member emails myself, because I can't force the classified staff to, to take on overtime, whereas unclassified staff is, we have some flexibility. And so, we've offered it, but like I said, when you have cut off any use of leave for months at a time, and you're doing the job of 2 or 3 people, overtime isn't it's not a perk.
All right, thank you.
This is Laura Freed. I'm not seeing other comments and questions. So with that, I think we'll move from agenda item 5 to agenda item 6, which is our standing contracts item. And
actually, Chair Freed, that was only the first paragraph of the EO.
Oh, that was only the first paragraph. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Or the first
No,
section.
please
Sorry.
continue. I thought that was a significant part, though. Sorry. Please go ahead.
So the next part of it is just an update on the implementations that we had. As I said, there was a long list of solicitations that went out last year, and that just meant that there were a lot of newly awarded contracts that would require pretty complex implementations. So typically PEB would try to limit these implementations to 1 or 2 a year, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of disruption, and it increases risks to members and to staff, and increases the need for communication. And so people get bombarded with, or members get bombarded with our communication. So we try to keep it at a minimum, but this year we did not have that luxury. And so PEB had many implementations to juggle at once. We had the third-party administrator, the medical network, life insurance, HSA, HRA administrator, our actuaries, and also on top of that, all that, the reversion of the eligibility and enrollment system. PEB is pleased to announce that all of the implementations were successfully implemented with only minor issues. No implementation went without its challenges. You heard that there was some confusion on the HSA. There's still some functionality that is being built out, things like that, but no major setbacks occurred, and members were able to access services without disruption on July 1st. I just want to say that this could not have happened without the tremendous efforts of our vendor partners and PEB staff. Everyone worked very, very hard and to ensure that those integrations with PEB and between the vendors were all went smoothly. There was a whole lot of commitment and coordination on all levels, and I feel like that should just be celebrated. And as the executive officer, I want to ensure that PEB staff and partners receive recognition for making this a success, because everyone definitely worked hard to make that happen. The next section is just a quick open enrollment update. Almost 7,000 members made open enrollment selections, which is consistent from previous year's activity. We can see here that in the chart in this report, there was some migration mainly from the CDHP. So members left the CDHP and moved to the low deductible plan. So this is the second year we've offered that low deductible plan. I think people are becoming more aware of it. And I think that low deductible plan was more appealing than the high deductible plan. And so we had quite a shift from that, and most of it came from the CDHP. The other thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention is the reporting schedule. So historically, PEB has struggled to align reporting between vendors due to inconsistent methodologies and timing. So when I say inconsistent methodologies and timing, there are some vendors that report on incurred, and then other vendors that report on paid. And so incurred is I went to a provider on June 1st. That is my incurred date, but the provider didn't submit the bill, and the bill did not get, that claim did not get processed by our TPA for 2 to 3 months. And so that is the paid date. And so really, when you've got that lag time between reporting, it can cause our vendor reports to not align. And so as a result, we have used the transition to new partners as an opportunity to more closely align reporting across the board and to improve the consistency in data. So by changing the everything basically, so one simple change is to report solely on an incurred basis. So that's that date of service, meaning that all that data that's reported is on that date of service versus on the date the claim is paid. I know for our accounting staff, the paid date is easier. But for terms, just in general, in a health plan, you want to use that date of service because it's a more accurate reflection of what is happening in the plan. So in order to account for claim lag time, some changes will be made to the reporting schedule moving forward. These changes will allow for claims run out and capture a more accurate experience. So as shown below in this table on page 3, the only report that's going to be impacted is in that 4th quarter, where instead of presenting at the September board meeting, we will be presenting this at the November board meeting. So all those utilization reports will be presented in November versus in September. And that just makes it so the reports that are, the numbers and the data that is being presented is just a more accurate reflection of what's actually happened in the plan. And the last thing that I'm actually really excited about is the compliance review. So PEB is required to undergo a compliance audit every other year. And that review is performed by PEB's consultants, which is our actuaries, and focuses on the program's compliance with federal and state laws. This year, though, PEB has asked Siegel to perform a more in-depth review to include best practices throughout the plan. This includes recommendations on the language and presentation of the master plan documents, as well as an assessment on some of the clinical aspects of the plan. So we're looking more at, I know there's been some comments about, equity on the prior authorizations and things like that. So we're really going to do a deep dive into this and really look at our plan in a way that I don't think that the program has ever, undergone in a compliance review. So because of the more extensive analysis, the findings are going to be presented separately by subject matter as each section is presented or is completed. PEB and Siegel, we've already begun discussions and work on this project. And so we hope to have a more definitive timeline of deliverables in the coming weeks. But bottom line is you're going to start seeing the results of the compliance review probably starting maybe in the September board meeting, possibly not until the November board meeting, but we do hope to bring those reports and the findings to the board in separate sections as they get completed. So with that, I will stop questions.
Okay, Ms. Aiello.
I just wanted to echo, Laura, what you said about bringing up all the different contracts in such a short period and implementing them, that having had to do some of those myself in my career, that is an extremely difficult thing to do so many concurrently versus one or two at a time. And so I just want to echo your statement about how wonderful a thing, and thank you to the staff for doing that. And then maybe, hopefully, that will give a little bit more breathing room this next year to help staff with the overload. I know it doesn't help your phone answering unit or whatever, but they may be able to get a little more support or something. But I just wanted to reiterate that it's amazing and commend the staff also.
Thank you. Ms. Biddleston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leslie Biddleston for the record. I would like to say to PEB staff, thank you for all of your hard work. That was really good information shared by Executive Officer Rich. I do have a quick question. As a data nerd myself, you know, when we talk about incurred versus paid, I'm wondering, and this may be my little bit of ignorance, is do we have like a document or something that outlines to our vendors on the data that we need? You know, so do we outline that, or do we just kind of rely on what they give us? You know, so I'm saying that from experience. You know, my experience is if we don't tell them exactly what we need, they're just going to give us stuff we don't need.
So Laura Rich for the record. One thing I do want to say, just both Betsy and Leslie mentioned they thank the staff. I do want to say our vendors have been amazing, and I just want to make sure they receive the recognition as well, because everyone really worked hard on, you know, on every organization, every partner we have. Leslie, to your question, yes, our vendors actually, they accommodate our reporting requests pretty well for the most part. You know, anything that we've asked for, they're usually able to produce in one way or the other. The reports that we have developed, we've actually been, you'll probably see some differences in the reporting moving forward, because now, you know, our TPA, although it's a new TPA, although HealthScope is part of UMR, you'll see new reporting. We are working with them to align the reporting, and maybe even there's certain things that I like. For example, Health Plan of Nevada, there are HMO, and then UMRs are TPA. They're providing, both entities are providing very similar, you know, utilization reports per plan, right? But they're different because one's coming from HPN, the other one's coming from UMR. I've asked to really, there's things that I like out of the HPN reporting. There's things that I like out of the, well, in the past it was HealthScope. And so we're looking to tweak all of those reports a little bit. And that's already been a discussion that we've had. And so you'll probably see some changes moving forward. I don't know if they're going to be major enough, but yes, they are usually very accommodating to our reporting and anything that we request.
No follow-up, thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments, thoughts on the entirety this time of the executive officer report? Okay. Seeing none, now we will really go on to agenda item 6, our typical standing contract item. I'll turn it over to, I believe, Ms. Whalen.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Michelle Whalen, W-E-Y-L-A-N-D. I am the Administrative Services Officer here at Public Employees Benefits Program. And this morning I will be presenting the contract status report. This report addresses the status of PEB contracts to include contract overview, new contracts for approval, contract amendments for approval, contract solicitations for approval, and status of current solicitations. 6.1 Contracts Overview lists the active PEB contracts as of June 30, 2022. Currently, there are no actions necessary. And so we will move on to 6.2 New Contracts. And PEB does not currently have any new contracts for ratification. Thank goodness. 6.3 Contract Amendment Ratifications. We have one for Claims Technology, Inc. PEB contracted with Claims Technology, Inc. for health claim auditing services, which became effective November 9, 2021, and has a termination date of June 30, 2027. Effective May 1st, 2022, Claim Technologies has been acquired by Brown & Brown Massachusetts, LLC. This amendment is necessary to document the name change of the company and does not make any other changes to the contract. PEB recommends the board authorize staff to amend the contract between PEB and Claim Technology, Inc. for health claim auditing services in contract number 24030 to change the vendor name to Brown & Brown Massachusetts, LLC. 6.4, contract solicitation. PEB does not currently have any contract solicitations for ratification, and status of current solicitations. We are only currently working on the eligibility and enrollment system, and we are in the very early stages of that. I would be happy to take any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you very much. So the only action we need to take is 6.3.1, which, to confirm, that is just a no cost reassignment of the vendor name. Is that going to August or September? Oh, I'm sorry, that's not an action item at Board of Examiners.
Michelle Whalen, for the record, correct. That is a non-action item. It's strictly for clerk of the board. So
okay, Mr. Verducci, do you have a question?
Oh yes, Tom Verducci for the record. I just wanted to point out that the eScripts contract is showing an expiration of June 30th of the year 206. That was 1800 years ago, before they had pharmacy benefits. I think that should read 2026.
Michelle Whalen, for the record, Mr. Verducci, I believe you are correct. I will double check our links in that log, and I do apologize for the oversight.
Oh,
Thank you for noting the typo, Mr. Verducci.
No problem. And I also noticed that we have two contracts that look like they fall under NRS 287, Carson City Airport Authority and Clean Water Coalition. And I just wanted to point out the termination date goes into, it looks like the year 2050. I don't think there's any expenditures. It appears to be an ongoing perpetual contract. And my question is that based on NRS that there's no review of any contracts for that many years in the future?
Mr. Verducci, I will need to get back to you for that, because these contracts actually, I believe, are expired. I will need to go check our log and check those links as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Verducci. All right, so I will accept a motion to approve staff's recommendation for item 6.3.1.
This is Leslie Biddleston for the record, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Betsy. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Thanks very much. Agenda item 7 then is our second public comment period, and I'll turn it over again to PEB staff.
All right, I'll work on that right now, Madam Chair.
Tyler, really quickly, I think Member Kelly has a question or a comment before we start public comment.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I'm just wondering if you could share with the public where the PEBP jobs are advertised for recruitment, because I have received a question about that.
Sure. So all state jobs are advertised on the state website. We can get that. I don't know if
I got it.
Carefree, do you have that?
Okay. Please go to hr.nv.gov, and then we'll have a link to the external recruitment site on the DHRM website.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler, go for it. Sorry.
No problem. I'll have it up in a moment. As a reminder, Zoom is used for public comment only. This meeting is streaming live on YouTube. If you want to just listen into the PEB board meeting, the YouTube link is located on the agenda. For those who have joined for public comment, your name or last 4 digits of the phone number will be announced and you'll be advised you have been unmuted. As a reminder for those on the phone, please press *6 to unmute. With the caller last 46837, you have permission to speak if you wish to make public comment. Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, this is Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, State President of the Nevada Faculty Alliance. Thank you all for your service, and in particular to members Aiello, Barnes, Biddleston, Kelly, Verducci, and Woodward for your questions on behalf of members today. PEB needs to look at all possible solutions for solving the staffing problems, both short-term and long-term. On the question of retiree health care benefits for post-2011 hirees, it's important to restore these in order to make state public service attractive again. Because PEB retiree benefits have always been provided on a pay-as-you-go basis, and since 2009 are earned only after 15 years of service, the actual incremental cost to retroactively restore them for post-2011 hires is near zero for the next biennium. It's only the future potential liabilities that increase. There are, however, methods to pre-fund retiree benefits without incurring future unfunded liabilities for the state, such as using a collective defined benefit structure. Such methods should be investigated to restore health care benefits for retirees, again, as a way to make state public service attractive again. Thank you to all board members, Executive Officer Rich, and all of PEB staff for your hard work during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will the caller, the last 4 is 0137, please slowly state and spell your name for the record and press *6 to unmute your phone if you wish to make public comment. Will the caller with the last 4 digits 0137, please press *6 to unmute your phone if you wish to make public comment. Madam Chair, that is everyone for public comment.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we have come to the end of our business. So it is 10:33 a.m. This is probably the fastest PEB board meeting I've ever chaired in my life. Everybody stay cool. It's really hot out there today, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good one, folks.
Thank you.